Hey guys, Joshua here. Now, one of my most popular series on this channel, and a series which I do once a month, mostly, is Bad Weapons of Enlisted. Now, basically, with this series, I look at weapons which I think are bad, and I've done quite a few, from the really piss-poor MP3008, to the really just annoyingly bad gold orders like the Schmeiser and the Peterson device. However, I'm just going to more clean up things here, like what contributes me putting it on the list, and more or less what constitute me making a video on them. Now, first off, for the most part, it looks down onto three criteria, basically. How usable the weapon is, so, so how strong it is, the alternatives to the weapon, and how much it costs. So, first off, let's look at one of the first ones I did, which is, we'll start off with usability. Now, the perfect thing for usability has to go to the Braided Medell 30. This thing is very, very poor. It has weak damage, well, it has decent damage, but it has a weak magazine, a pretty annoyingly just not a good reload, and it just does not have a good rate of fire, nor does it have good ammo, and it has really bad recoil. In fact, firing this thing non-braced is a death sentence, really. So, it's easy to justify why this is a bad weapon. So, but it also has another factor as well, which is, of course, the cost, which I'll talk about later. But as you can see, this weapon is very weak, and the problem is as well, which is another thing, which is kind of in the criteria, but it's not exactly. But it's kind of when these are in the campaign. For example, with the Braider, you're forced to use this really as your LMG until level, I believe it's whatever it is, it's level 19, I believe, in Normandy, and it's a lot higher in other campaigns. Like, until you get a better LMG, which is usually the MG34, but in other campaigns it can be a little bit different. With another example of this would have to be the shotgun, wherever it is, I've got one at 5-star, but I don't have it anywhere. But it's the Winchester. Now the Winchester's problem is, again, it's your obviously Axis and Allies LMGs are pretty shit until level 22, and the Winchester is not helping this at all. It's very unusable. It does not much damage, even at the range you're supposed to use it. This thing is pointless, and there's no reason to pick this over even a grease gun. So that's the first one. The second is, like I said, cost. Well, not cost, is other options. So, like the Winchester here, the other options are the grease guns. But for other weapons as well, there usually is better alternatives. Sometimes the alternatives are a little bit later in the tech tree. For example, with something like the Braider, its best alternative is at level 19 with the MG34. However, with something like the M1 grease gun, not the M1 grease gun, the Winchester, it's got better alternatives earlier in the tech tree, so that makes it even more obsolete. Another good example has to be I'll try and find it in here. Here we are, the M19A4, which has a better alternative, literally, at the start of the campaign, with the A1 here. With the A1 pretty much having a better scope, and really the only advantage that the A4 has is a faster rate of fire. As you can see here, the rate of fire on the A4 at minimum is at the maximum rate of fire of the standard A1. That's all the A4 has over the A1. And you can see here you can see the same thing with other weapons, like the, not really here, can't really show them here, but with weapons like the, what's it called, like the Mannlicher and the Maz as well. They have the exact same problem with the Kar 98K and later Gewehr 43 and stuff like that. You know, which leads on to the third thing, cost. Now, silver orders, especially for newer players, aren't that good. Obviously, I don't have many at the moment because I went on a massive spending spree. But, yeah, silver orders are very precious. Something like a Maz 36 or a Mannlicher, you know, when you can get literally almost the exact same rifle for free, you know, with the Kar 98K, isn't really going to be too good. Isn't too good compared to something like, say, spending a silver order on a Gewehr 43. Another good example is overspending for certain stuff. The best example, of course, being the Kar 98K with the grenade launcher, which I put as the worst weapon in Normandy, once upon a time. And saying that this thing is I still think this is one of the worst weapons, if not the worst weapon in Normandy, because of its cost. But for the Allies aren't even exempt to this either. You've got stuff like the M3 and M3A1, the Winchester, obviously. Even stuff like the Sten really shouldn't be as much as it is, even though the Sten's really good. You have stuff like the Ross rifle here, which doesn't really give much benefit over something like the number 4 or the Grand. The carbine, obviously. The A4, which is pretty much the A1 again. The Sniper Garand, which, I mean, it's a good rifle, but it's really not up to the standard of the Garand. Even something like the Garand with the grenade launcher, like, I would argue that this makes the effort, because at least the grenade launchers are pretty powerful, especially against infantry. Whereas the Garand with the regular Garand, you know, it's a paid version of the regular Garand, and the launcher is pretty decent. It's pretty decent now. The same goes for the gold orders as well, which is why I'm really critical on gold orders, because gold orders are very, very rare. Like, these things are rarity. So, a bad gold order, like the Peterson device, like the Schmeiser, you know, I'm going to rip into them a lot more than I'm going to rip into... Unlike something like, say, the Gewehr 43 Kurtz, which is a very good gold order, or the Sumi, or even the RMN, which I've got a video planned looking at all of the gold orders. Well, all the gold orders I've used, which is pretty much all of them other than the suppressed ones, and basically ranking them from worst to best, really. So, yeah, that's really what constitutes what makes a bad, you know, what I intend as a bad weapon. Now, obviously, it's up to interpretation, obviously, and, you know, obviously, some people might say, you know, oh, what about the M2 carbine? You know, those aren't the best. What about the, I don't know, I've seen people say the Bren isn't that good. I've seen people say, even though I've said it's a 9 out of 10 weapon, you know, I've seen people argue that weapons like the, something like, you know, the Beretta M1918, which is an okay weapon, which I would say is okay, you know, should be on the list. Something like the MP35 or the, you know, even stuff which I actually like flamethrowers and the MG42 and 34, you know, that debate. Or even stuff like, you know, I don't even, like, even stuff like the Thompson, like, people argue that the Thompson isn't the best, whereas I say it's one of the best weapons in the game, so, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here. Like, there's not really much to say, actually, that hasn't already been said. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next